Test.
Councilwoman, I'm about to play the intro, then I'll count you in.
Good evening and welcome to our Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting. Today is Monday, October the 3rd. I am the Vice Chair, Councilmember Michelle Harley, representing the 4th District. At this time, we are going to call the roll call for those members of the committee first. Councilmember Oliver,
Present.
Councilmember Spadola,
Present.
and Council President Trippy Congo.
Here.
Thank you. So at this time, we are calling this meeting to order, and we are going to get started with our agenda on today. We have several updates in your hearing today. We're going to have our update on the ARPA funds, an update on our city's infrastructure funds project, an update on the city's economic and development projects, primarily the new business and any new jobs. And then lastly, we have a resolution establishing a special committee of the City Council regarding fees and fines for a special committee, and the sponsor is Councilmember Shanae Darby. So this time, we're going to start with our first item, which is update on our ARPA funds. And who's here to speak to that topic?
Hello, Councilwoman. I am Stephanie Merkler. I will be presenting the ARPA funds this evening.
And before you get started, I do want to acknowledge on the line, we have Councilmember Nathan Field, Councilmember Shanae Darby as well. Thank you. Thank you. You can proceed, Stephanie.
Certainly. I will start with just a high-level overview of spending in each category, starting with administrative costs. We start with a budget of $1.7 million in administrative costs. We have allocated about $1.2 million, and we have spent about $650,000. In building safer communities, we have a budget of $7 million. We have allocated $500,000 and spent $83,000. In community investment, we have a budget of $4.7 million. We have allocated about $3.7 million, and we have spent about $2.1 million. In essential pay for essential workers, we have paid out $2,664,318. In neighborhood revitalization, we have a budget of $22 million. We have allocated about $18.5 million, and we have spent about $6.6 million. And we have set aside $13.3 million for revenue replacement. And finally, in workforce development, we have an overall budget of $4 million. We have allocated about $2.1 million and spent about $10,000. And I am happy to answer any questions you have about specific projects.
Yeah, I have a question.
You mentioned for neighborhood revitalization. Can you repeat those numbers again, please?
Certainly. We have an overall budget of $22 million. We have allocated about $18.5 million, and we have spent about $6.6 million.
Okay, so you have allocated 18 and have only spent 6?
Correct.
Okay, and so what is the delay between the 6 and the 18?
Sure. It's largely construction work. that takes time in drawing up plans, purchasing the properties, etc. So as we receive drawdown requests from our larger partners, such as Woodlawn Trustees, Habitat for Humanity, Central Baptist CDC, we are paying those out, but it does take time for the construction to actually happen and then for a drawdown request to be submitted.
Thank you. Now, in Habitat, what is the total amount that we have allocated for Habitat and how much have they spent? And I'm asking as it relates to the east side. I know that's one of the bigger communities where we are revitalizing.
Absolutely. So we have two different contracts with Habitat for Humanity. One is for the A Brush with Kindness program, and the other is for new housing construction on Bennett Street. For the A Brush with Kindness program, we started with a contract of $800,000. They've nearly expended most of that. You will not see most of that spent down on OpenGov. We actually just got an approved drawdown request today for $460,000, which we will be paying out in the next week. So nearly their entire original $8 million allotment has been spent down. That will be increased by $1.2 million for continued direct work on the east side. They have not submitted a drawdown request yet for the $2 million we have set aside for new housing construction on Bennett Street. I believe they are still in the architectural and engineering phase, so we have not received a drawdown yet. I believe COS Washington has her hand raised if she has something to add here.
So let me finish my point.
Take your time.
As far as Habitat, the program that's going in to inspect the houses. Now, you mentioned Brush of Kindness and then new housing. So which one of these buckets is Habitat working under as it relates to them going in to inspect the houses and doing the work? Which bucket?
By inspect the houses, do you mean, I think that would probably be A Brush with Kindness. That would be facade work. So things like, I think it's called basically warm, safe, and dry. That is work to, do essentially outside repair, roofs, porches, things like that. And then at the same time, as they are looking at those houses and they realize that, say, the house needs new electrical work or new plumbing or new heating to make it livable, then they do that work as well. That is A Brush with Kindness.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you, Stephanie. And I think Chief of Staff Washington wanted to say something?
Yes, just real quickly, while you may only see like $6 million spent down, it's important to note that the funds have been encumbered to various organizations. And while you may not see an actual drawdown, the funds have been encumbered for the projects. I just wanted to make note of that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councilmember Oliver?
Yes, thank you. It's Stephanie. Everything you just went over, because it was kind of went over rather quickly. Could you send over a breakdown of that, the update of the ARPA funds? I mean, I wrote down some of it, but
Oh, certainly.
okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
So I could just look at it, and so I want to. May I follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So, you said Habitat, had received $800,000?
Initially.
Right.
Then that contract has been increased to $2 million.
2 million, right? And
Yes.
how much of that, what did you say? That's what I'm saying, you was talking kind of fast, and I was looking at my
Oh,
phone.
sure.
How much is that for the housing on Bennett Street out of that 2 million? So altogether, their pocket is 8 million.
So there are two separate contracts with Habitat for Humanity. One is for Brush with Kindness, and one is for new housing construction on Bennett Street. And both contracts are separately $2 million. So Habitat for Humanity Brush with Kindness is $2 million, And right now, our contract for new housing construction is $1 million that will be increased to by another $1 million for new housing construction on Bennett Street. So a total for Habitat for Humanity of $4 million.
So the total is it $4 million?
Yes.
Okay.
But for two separate purposes, essentially. So $2 million for new housing construction and $2 million for Brush with Kindness.
Right. Okay, I get it. That's what I'm saying. $2 million for the construction, that would be Bennett Street pretty much. And
Correct.
the other $2 million would be for the construction work going in and out of, the Brush for Kindness, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And I hate to ask the same question over because it's going kind of fast. For Reverend Keeley's program, that is what, 460?
Let's see. So for right now, our contract with Eastside Housing Partners, which is the partnership between SENER and Central Baptist CDC, is currently $100,000. We are looking to increase that for new housing construction soon. We are in talks.
So for SENER and Reverend Keeley's program, when they're going in and out the houses, cleaning out the houses, and this is the funding that they're working in together with, it's going to be $1 million. I think in the future, I'd just like to say something, Marshall or whoever the chairs, just have a copy in front of us, because just for her talking, it's it's a little confusing. I mean, I understand it, but it's nothing like seeing it so I can see the breakdown. Thank you. Go ahead. I'll just wait till I see a breakdown, because I don't want to keep asking the same question, because it's, you understand what I'm saying, Chris?
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, 'cause
Yes.
you can't see it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And I don't want to keep asking her the same question over and over.
Certainly.
Like,
I will.
to me, it seemed like it should have been a slide, Ms. Chair, that's all.
And Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes,
Chair. And two, like, all this information is like on OpenGov. I mean, if Councilwoman Oliver would like, I mean, we can have OpenGov up at the same time as we're
Sure.
talking, but.
Well, that's
you know,
the to me, that when you say we're gonna do a update on the ARPS, it should be, if it's, I don't care if it's on OpenGov or not, we wanna see it. What was the purpose of the update if we just gonna talk about it? I saw this on, but she's explaining it, breaking it down, and some of it I didn't understand because it's not all, it's on there, all the amount is there, but like Tanny said, it's on, some of it's not on it, but it's been all rolled out, so it's a little confusing, that's all I'm saying, so it's nothing like just having a copy of it.
so, in the future.
That's confusing.
In the future, if we
That
can
didn't tell us
have,
nothing.
so if we can have a handout, that would be helpful, if we could have OpenGov, on the projector. That would be.
Certainly. I would be happy to do both.
Okay, I would like to acknowledge our council member, Chris Johnson, the chair of this Finance Committee meeting. President Congo, do you have a question?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Do
this
we
is
have,
Councilwoman.
do we have any questions from anyone on the line? Please introduce yourself.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, Councilmember Linda Gray.
Yes, acknowledging for being in the meeting, although I was late. I do have a question. Are we discussing infrastructure money coming from the federal government? Is that the money that we're discussing?
No, ma'am, that's the second item.
Okay, thank you, then I'll wait.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
You're welcome. Any other council members have any other questions on the line? Do we have anyone in the public that have any questions? If none, we're,
I have one more question.
Councilmember Oliver?
Thank you. So is that all the ARPA's update we have is just on the east side? It's no other ARPA's update funding?
I'd be happy to go over the other categories again, or if you have any questions about projects in other categories.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean about I mean, I don't want to go over it. I wait till I see it because we can't see nothing. She'd be going through the whole list. That's why you have like economic, excuse me, I'm just making a statement. That's why economic development has this printout, so we can see it. Thank you. 'Cause that's not, that's not an update on the ARPA's, it's talking about the east side, they got a whole list of stuff.
Well, thank you. My last question, Stephanie, is you mentioned the housing organizations that are involved. I heard Sanair, Woodlawn Trustees, Habitat. What are the other housing organizations that are involved in the revitalization?
There are quite a few. So, and it depends on which level we're speaking of. So, we have kind of our overall general contractors, such as Habitat for Humanity, Reach Riverside, Eastside Housing Partners, which is the partnership between Sanair and Central Baptist CDC. Delaware Affordable Housing Group, which is a nonprofit arm of the Wilmington Housing Authority, Tom Morden Foundation, which is a branch of Woodlawn Trustees itself. We have Cornerstone West, CDC. We have WEDCO, which is the Wilmington Economic Development Corporation, which is handling bridge loans for construction. We have Southbridge CDC. We are working with Richard Dighton and his group on cleaning alleyways. And then from there, we have all of the contractors who are hired by our general contractors to do work for their RFPs. So all of the people who are answering bid opportunities. I don't have a list on hand of those people since our agreements aren't directly with them. They have the agreements with our general contractors. But there are a lot of people working and doing work with the ARPA money.
Okay, thank you. Council President Congo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have an expected timeline for these projects to be completed?
Absolutely. And that is technically imposed by the federal government. So all funds need to be encumbered by December 31st, 2024. And then all funds need to be fully spent down by December 31st, 2026. So all of our work needs to at least be planned and in progress by the end of 2024, and then completed by the end of 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes, Ms. Mergler, I appreciate again, I think what would be good, since we have the different pots, would be looking forward if we could have a graphical. Again, I don't think a link to the website would help, but similar, I believe last month we did have a little bar graph, just so again we can track the progress of each of these projects, because I think
Absolutely.
it seems to be during the month what me and I think many of my colleagues are encountering is somebody might ask about this project or this project or that project. And, we don't really know which ones are close to being finished, which ones are in phase 1, which ones are in phase 2. So that might be good if the housing projects that I know are the big pot, if they could at least have bar graphs or something just so we can track them a lot better.
Yes, I would be happy to.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council members in the room? Any other questions from the council members on the line? Any other questions from the public? Ms. Bass Knight?
Yes. Madam Chair, just one question. When we last met, there was a couple other new entities that were added to ARPA, which one was DTV, I believe the Challenge Program. So if I'm looking at OpenGov, I see that the YMCA is added. Is that something new or no?
Let's see. So the Central YMCA, the contract was executed on August 12th. So that's a relatively new project. I know they've had their orientation with our compliance partners, so I think at this point we are just waiting for a drawdown. And in general, I've asked our compliance partner to reach out to all of our grantees, especially ones who have not submitted a drawdown request, to follow up with them and find out where they are in the process and make sure that they know how to submit a drawdown request and that they are all on track to spend their funds.
Okay, so from September until now, were there any new requests added to the OpenGov that we're not aware of?
Let's see. Any that are new?
Yes, from when we last met.
Sure.
Thanks.
Let me pull up the page real quick. So, since last month, as you said, we have added the challenge program. I have added a placeholder for the Delaware Children's Museum. We are currently working on the agreement with them. As soon as the contract has been executed and the project has been set up in Munis, this will be completed. I'll take down the placeholder and show the actual project. Same with Jefferson Street Center. We executed their contract today, so that one will be looked over relatively soon. The Utility Payment Assistance Program, we have replenished the Utility Payment Assistance Program with $300,000 of ARPA funds. That is a new one on OpenGov. And finally, HBCU Week is new as well. So those are all new projects under community investment. Let's see, under workforce development, there are no new projects. There's one I need to add for building safer communities, which is a project with the Delaware AG's office. That contract was executed today. I will add that. Let's see, and then you mentioned DETV, that one is new. And underneath neighborhood revitalization, RL construction is new. That one is the alleyway cleanup on the east side. So those are all of the new projects.
Those are a lot of new projects. So I definitely agree that it will be a great idea for us to have some type of handout and identifying new projects since the last meeting. And as Council Member Johnson stated, to be able to see any kind of progress and movement as well with these different projects that are getting started. Did you say HBCU Week?
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about that? What's being donated to them?
Certainly. That covered part of the cost of the event. It covered lunches for the students for the week and rental fees for the facility.
And what was the cost for that?
That one was $150,000. Nope, let me double check. Let me make sure I'm giving you the correct number. Yep, $150,000.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Chair Johnson?
Thank you very much. In terms of these, I know there's a lot of projects, as Chairwoman Harley mentioned. What's it, so in terms of the timeline, how soon is it taking the city to get MOUs done? Because I understand a MOU or contract is done with each entity. How long is that typically taking, that whole process?
It can be turned around relatively quickly, depending on the responsiveness of the grantee and how much information they have ready to go. It's just a process. So say if we generate the contract, which can be done in maybe a day or two, as long as we have, the scope of work in place, we know how they want to structure their drawdowns, things like that. As long as all of that is very clear at the outset, and as long as the grantee doesn't have any changes they want to make to the agreement, it can be turned around within a few days. Usually when something takes a little bit longer, it is because we need to hammer out the details behind the drawdown schedule and the scope of work. And so currently, one happens to be taking a little bit longer. I won't say whose. It's because they need their comptroller to put together some documents for us, and they're busy. These things just take a little bit of time sometimes. So we currently have 2 attorneys working on the agreements on the city side. So the agreements are being turned around on our side relatively quickly.
Proceed.
Follow-up question. And the reason I'm asking is just because I know in the beginning, it seemed like back in 2021, process was a lot, very much slower. So I would like to give credit to your department for expediting things. So we just want to know on the council side, because we talk to community partners all the time, so at least we can have an expectation that, the system's moving faster now. So if we can get an idea blessed, it's not 2 or 3 months, it's, 2 or 3 weeks. That would make us, I think, feel a lot better. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
Oh, certainly. Thank you, Councilman.
Agreed. Councilmember Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Stephanie, when you said the Children's Museum, what address would that be? Where's that located?
It is down at the riverfront next to where the old Kahunaville used to be, the Delaware Children's Museum.
Okay, I thought they were already.
Yeah.
Is this the first, I guess my question as a follow-up, is this the first time they're receiving money? Because I thought they were already in there. Is this the first?
No, this is the first.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Jefferson Street Center, where would that be located?
That is on, where Hanover Presbyterian is on Baynard Boulevard.
You have
believe it will-
you have an address for me?
Yeah, absolutely. One moment. Let me pull up the chart real quick. This will take just 1 second.
I think it's 1801 North Jefferson,
What is 18?
but I will.
That is correct. That is correct. Councilman Spadol is correct. It is
What is it?
1801.
What is it?
1801 North Jefferson. Jefferson Street Center's in the basement of.
Oh, right there in
Hanover
the corner.
Church. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
In Hanover Church.
Yes.
Okay. Follow up. What is Safer Communities?
Building safer communities.
What is it?
That is one of the overall categories that was part of the resolution that
Oh, yeah.
split the funds up.
And this is the first, and how much is that?
We currently have $500,000 allocated out of a total budget of $7 million.
500,000.
Correct.
Thank you. I have another follow-up. Where, I think I was looking for the contract with the school, I guess that would be with Deltech or would that be considered the workforce development program? What is the status with the youth with the Deltech? What's going on with that?
Certainly, that's a very exciting project. They are that $10,000 that's been spent out of the workforce development, that has all been student stipends. So I can actually tell you exactly how many students have signed up for the program so far.
And
One moment.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, you said the students signed up. Is this from Deltech or Howard? Because it was a little confusing.
It's a variety, actually.
What is
So
it?
the program is run by the Newcastle County VOTEC School District. But I believe it can be anybody from Howard. It can even be students who aren't even enrolled in school and who are just trying to get back in, I believe. Yeah, it might be helpful if you would like, one time we can bring in Colin Conity, who's running the program, to talk about it further if you'd like a deep dive on the program. But-
Stephanie, you sounded real muffled. My question is, you said the kids from VOTEC school, so I'm asking you, are they the kids, are they working in the schools or out of school? Because you keep going a little in and out. So I just was wondering.
Oh, apologies.
That's okay.
It's both, actually. So some of the kids are in school, so the program can be part of the time they're working, part of the time they're working to complete their credits. So it could be half and half. And in some cases, it's simply that they're apprentices and that they're out of school and they're just, working on learning the construction trade. So it's an either or situation.
Thank you. Is Chief of Staff on the line?
Yes, so.
Tammy, can you explain that to me? I mean, if the kids are coming from
Well-
Deltech, I'm just wondering, do we ever see them? Are they in the neighborhoods or in the school? How's that working? Tammy?
They are actually in the neighborhood. So
Okay.
I talked to Marshall earlier last week, and ask to have them come before your committee to do a presentation.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you. That's all.
Mhm.
Because I
It's the
probably saw some of them in the
apprenticeship- it's called the
street.
apprenticeship program.
Okay, I may have seen some of them in the street and just didn't know that was part of the Del Tech, maybe working with She, or it's another group of cleanups. I was just wondering. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
Chairman Johnson?
Just lastly, Ms. Mergler, the questioning by Council Member Oliver prompted this question is, you said there was a $500,000 allocation from the Building Safer Communities. What program was that? Was that an anti-violence program, or what programming was it?
Yes, it is. One moment. It is a community violence prevention program. It is it's a partnership among a few different groups, including the Center for Structural Equity, United Way of Delaware, Network Connect, and Minds in Motion. They're all members of the Wilmington Community Advisory Council.
Okay, so is the WCAC contract?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I have my hand up. Well, I know you can't see me up here. This is Councilwoman McCoy. I just had a question. Well, actually, I had two. One was, initially, I did hear about a replenishment of utility assistance funds of $300,000. I wanted to know whether or not this was something that happened previously, or is this a newer installment of funds?
Oh, certainly. This is the continuation of a longer running program that's been in existence for about the past 3 years or so. We initially funded it with $80,000 of operating funds. We replenished it with $200,000 of CARES Act funds. And now that those funds have been completely used up, we are replenishing the fund with $300,000 of ARPA funds. This is for city residents who need help paying their utility bills. So we are advertising the program to our residents in the next billing cycle. So in the next water bill, there will be a flyer for the UPAP program. In addition, when people call 311 and say they need help paying their utility bills, they are directed to our city finance department to submit an application for the UPAP.
Okay, thank you. The other question that I actually had was more to the workforce development. I did see it states here the 4 million, and I'm sorry, I did hear you do some breakdowns, and I just wanted to know whether or not that was actually part of the. I saw something for the Del Tech, and just wanted to see whether or not workforce development had anything to do with what we've already have going on, which is our clean jobs team, or is this something new? Like, if you can just give me an explanation about the workforce development and those 4 million.
Sure. So the overall category is workforce development. We currently have 3 different programs that have been allocated underneath it. The largest of which is through Newcastle County Vo-Tech School District. So that one it's a contract with Newcastle County Vo-Tech School District to run the program, and we are also paying the student stipends directly from the city. As COS Washington explained, we will have a separate meeting in council to fully go over that program and the impact that it's having. In addition, we also have $150,000 going to the Delaware Art Museum to instruct local residents on how to, in kind of a new field of, and a new job field related to maintaining city statues or public art, essentially. And then finally, there is $250,000 allocated to DETV to train underserved youth ages 16 to 21 in a new career track of mass communications. So it will be kind of an internship program through DETV.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm sorry, what was the amount that you actually, I got the 150 to the Art Museum, 250 to DTV, which is 400,000. And what was the amount that was given to the VOTEC?
Sure. So right now I have listed on OpenGov 767. That is the initial contract of 295,000 for NCC VOTEC and the first year of student stipends for the students. In actuality, it is, I will update OpenGov with this because I want to include our out years as well. So the next couple of years of student stipends. So overall, our total allocation to Newcastle County VOTEC right now, including the contract with NCC VOTEC and the student stipends, is 1.7 million.
So, okay, so, I mean, do we still, so is the other almost 2 million encumbered?
Correct. Yes. So 2.1 million allocated for the category and about $10,000 spent.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, I do see 2.1. This is what I was actually adding up. I do see that is encumbered, but I was saying that the actual, that line actually is 4 million. So the other, I was just wondering whether or not the almost 2 million, which is 1.9 million, was that encumbered, or you were still waiting for other proposals to come through?
Correct. We are still waiting for other proposals. So that 1.9 million is currently unallocated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to go, Councilmember McCoy, is that your last question?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We're going to go to Councilmember Oliver. After that, we're going to move on to our next item. Stephanie, can you,
Councilwoman Gray, could you, I'm sorry.
oh, someone else?
Madam Chair, you can recognize me after Councilwoman Oliver.
Okay, sure,
I'm done.
sure.
She answered my question. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to go to Councilmember Gray, and then after Councilmember Gray, Stephanie, can you share the website address so everyone can go back and go over some of the information that you shared on tonight? Thanks.
Well, I just have a statement. I totally, wholeheartedly agree with Councilwoman Oliver that in these type of presentations, I think that we need to have paper in front of us so that we can follow along or refer back, or a video. I prefer paper, but we could have it on a screen because after the presentation that Stephanie gave, we've gotten more information and asked more questions than even before her or during her presentation. So there obviously is a lot of information that she didn't present, but Stephanie, I definitely want to compliment you on being able to answer all the questions and come up with all these numbers and everything. But we didn't even know the answer to the questions until people started digging in a little bit deeper. And if we had it in front of us, we could have just gone down the list and picked out things we were interested in. But thank you very much for all your information.
Certainly.
That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Gray. Stephanie, can you share the website address for OpenGov?
Certainly. The best way to get there, if instead of just trying to recite the URL, would be if you go to wilmingtonde.gov, and on the very front page of our website, there's a purple box that says OpenGov. If you click on OpenGov, then on the very first page, there's a box that says American Rescue Plan Act, and then click on ARPA Spending Tracker. And that will give you an overview of all of the different projects.
Okay, thank you. Several people had asked me about the web address. I got a text about it, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share you to share that with us on this evening. Okay, no other questions in the room? Okay, so we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is an update on the city's infrastructure funds project. Who is going to speak to that tonight?
Kelly Williams, the Commissioner of Public Works.
Hi, Commissioner.
Hello, good evening, everyone. There are no additional funding updates. So what I presented last month is the same as it is this month. I don't know if you want me to go over what I presented last month, but generally there are no more updates or any more, money coming in.
Well, Commissioner, since you're on the agenda, can you give us an executive summary of what you shared last month?
Sure. So we are receiving 23,122,000 in subsidies from the drinking water SRF projects. These are have not been fully decided, but they're going to be voted on by WEAC next month. Those applications have been submitted, and we fully expect that money to come through. What they are basically, they are loan forgiveness. So it is no interest loans, if you will. And that is more money than we have ever gotten ever in the history of the water funds. So we're quite excited about that. Then on the transportation side, we have received a Transportation Infrastructure Investment Fund grant, a TIF grant. So that is $4.67 million for the East 7th Street Peninsula area to raise that road, to make that a usable road for economic reasons. And then we have also received a commitment from Senator Carper in the amount of $4.8 million to look to do some sewer improvements in the South Market Street redevelopment program. Those are the monies that we've received so far.
Okay. All right. Previously, you mentioned the loans applications. Where are those applications coming from?
So the applications are normal projects that we do every year through SRF projects. They're lead service loans, basically like our raw water transmission improvements. And those applications go to WEAC, the Water Infrastructure Advisory Council, and the council reviews those applications and then decides whether or not to lend us the money and give us loan forgiveness, and then they award us the money or the grants or what have you. But we've been given a preview of what we will be awarded.
Okay, so the applications come from your department.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And they
Thank you.
have for
I'm sorry, what did you say?
They have historically.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, thank you. Any questions from the council members in the room? Any questions from the council members on the line?
I'd just like to make a statement.
Yes, this is Councilwoman Gray. I have a question. Maybe I missed this for the first presentation, but I would really like to know if any of this money is going to go toward sewer repair in the community. I know there's an area in the first district that the sewer pipe was broken. Quite a large people were inconvenienced, had to be moved out of their homes, and your department said that that sewer line needed to be replaced. So with this new money, are any of the districts going to have sewer work done? Specifically, this one project, but I'm just speaking for the city as a whole because we have very, very old infrastructure.
That is correct. We do have very, very old infrastructure. The money that we have received so far is just on the drinking water side. We have not received or really discussed what is happening on what we call the clean water side or the sewer side. So the state is not there yet. When we get there, we absolutely, no doubt, will be applying for as much money as we possibly can get. So the answer to your question is we will apply and we will ask for as much money as we can possibly get. It's just the state hasn't, gotten those loans together yet.
May I follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes.
And just a question before the fact even, how do you think you're going to prioritize which areas of the city or which projects this money will be used for?
So we prioritize based on, we have models out there on our, based on our assets and what is in the worst condition at the time. And your area in that is definitely recognized as one of the sewer areas that needs the most attention. So it will be on the list of.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be waiting for the one to come. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
When we get the money, the more money, the better, right?
Yes, thank you. Chairman Johnson?
This may seem kind of an off infrastructure question, Commissioner Williams, but does the city currently have any buildings in its portfolio that are SEED certified?
LEED certified?
Yeah.
The city does not own any, no,
Okay.
but there are LEED certified buildings in the city, yes.
Okay. I imagine it's not a lot of them, is it?
That's a better question for Jeff Starkey.
Okay.
I don't do buildings.
Okay, because more the question is the way these infrastructure funds are coming in, can some of the funds be used for LEED certification and so we can have energy efficient buildings downtown or throughout the city?
So, there's the infrastructure, the way the infrastructure bill was written, there's hundreds of thousands of pages and, programs for everything. So I suspect there's probably something for LEED certified buildings. So if there was a builder out there who wanted to do a LEED certified building and get some sort of support for that, I'm sure there is. It's not something that the city has an interest, like we at Public Works, we don't have a building to build. So, I have infrastructure to correct and roads to build and, piping to fix. So that's the money that, our department is going after. But if I were a builder, then yes, I would be searching for those kind of opportunities. But as a government, that's not necessarily, what we're spending our time doing.
Okay, all right. That's definitely a question I might ask Commissioner Starkey as we go along. I'm just trying to think of different ways we can think outside the box to use this money.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Council Member McCoy?
Yes, thank you. So my question is basically to Commissioner Williams. So we did hear last month about the fact that we did receive pretty much the exact funding that we needed for infrastructure. I guess the question is more so, is there a plan, what is actually the plan of the use that those funds that we budgeted and now that we may not have to use those funds because there's a loan, I guess, that we don't have to pay back? What is our plan? Will we return that so we save money on paying for a loan that we don't need? Or what is that? I just wanted to know whether there was a plan for that 18 million.
So it's basically money that we were going to borrow that we will not have to borrow.
Right.
So in our 6-year capital infrastructure plan that we have planned out, it's money that we were going to borrow and now we don't have to borrow. So that is going to significantly significantly change what I expect we were going to have to ask as far as water rates go. So, every year we generally ask for a water rate increase because of, inflation and how expensive water infrastructure is, and how, all of our infrastructure is aging, and I have to continually replace it, or we're going to get behind and we're not going to do enough replacement to keep up with, the need. This federal infrastructure money that's coming through the state and to us will allow us to actually do some infrastructure changes and improvements without having to borrow money for the first time. So that will give us relief on the rate side. So I won't have to come to you guys and ask for a rate increase necessarily.
Okay. Thank you. That was definitely one of the things that I had kind of talked about last month, but it feels a little better just to hear that that's something that the Public Works is considering.
So we're still doing our rate study. We look at our, our revenues and our projections, but the big bulk of our rate increases come from what we expect to have to spend on capital improvements, just to make sure that we're providing healthy, clean water, and we're able to, flush the toilets and not disrupt, people's services. So that big line item at the end, the bottom of the chart, will not be a big negative like it always is this year. Like a big, $18 million loan that we borrow over 20 years or whatever. So it's a big, it should make a pretty, good sized dent.
Thank you. Good to hear. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
good discussion. That was a great discussion. Councilmember Oliver?
No, I talked to Commissioner offline. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, any other council members on the line? Anyone from the public? Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner Williams. Thank you for that update. Okay, we're going to move on to our next item on this agenda, which is our economic and development projects for new businesses and/or jobs. And who's here to speak to that this evening?
The Office of Economic Development, Sean Park and James Williams.
Okay, you may want to introduce yourself once you sit down in the microphone.
Okay. All right. Good evening,
Good evening.
Council President Congo, Committee Chair Johnson, Vice Chair Harley. For those that I have not met yet, my name is Sean Park. I am the Acting Director of the Office of Economic Development following Jeff Flynn's departure from the city. I am joined by my colleague James Williams, who is the Small and Minority Business Development Manager. And my office was asked to provide an update on new businesses and jobs to the city, and we have prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation. We can start with the second slide of this PowerPoint deck. And the last time our office presented to this committee on this topic was November of 2021. And this presentation will start with a high-level overview of the new businesses and jobs over the last year. And in our office, we track both business developments and physical developments. Today, we'll focus on business developments, businesses that have been attracted, retained, or expanded throughout the last year. And in total, we keep track of roughly 240 businesses. And in the last year, actually, is there a slide before this? Mm-hmm. Yes. In the last year, we've kept track of roughly 240 businesses and kept up with announcements of new jobs. The number that we have been keeping track is 1,069 jobs that were announced in the last year. And this doesn't mean that the jobs will come right away, but that the businesses have made an intention to hire this many jobs. We can go to actually the business license data is a little messy. So we kind of go through a manual process of the business projects that our office deals with, and conversations with the community, as well as internet searches for what new jobs are out there. The data sources that we have internally are a bit messy, and that's why I put in here at the bottom the Ptolemy data on the business licenses that have popped up in the city in 2019 through 2022. If we take anything from this business license data, we could see a peak in 2019, a dip in 2020, and then a slow recovery in 2021 and 2022. And I want to point out that the business license data in 2022 is as of October. So we still have a few months left to go to see if this number will increase by the end of the year. And I think the easiest way to understand the potential jobs announced is to actually go through what are the top contributors of this number, 1,069. And so we'll go to our next slide, which is just a map of these businesses that have contributed a very large number of jobs to the city. We'll start with Investor Cash Management, which has announced 395 jobs, and that was in 2021, I believe. So Investor Cash Management is a financial technology company that was based in Chicago but relocated its headquarters to Wilmington, Delaware, in the Midtown Brandywine area. And they're hiring for commercial financial services talent, and they've relocated all of their operations to Wilmington, and they have an agreement with the state as well. Next, Barclays. That's in the riverfront, 300 jobs. And they purchased the riverfront office that they operate out of late last year. And they plan to hire 300 financial services professionals on top of the 300 call center jobs that they announced in June 2020. Next, I'll go to Goldman Sachs, which is just to the left of Barclays. They located to the riverfront to service its Marcus and Apple Card operations, and they chose Wilmington for its proximity to New York, as well as its availability of talent in the commercial financial services sector, after considering Texas, Utah, and Illinois for the expansion. And so they're currently at 100 jobs, but they're expecting to hire up to 200 jobs there. Fair Square Financial is a big project that is a big success story that's coming out of our office. It's a financial technology company that started in Wilmington and entered into an employment incentive agreement in 2017 when they were only at 22 employees. They are at 75 today, and they were acquired by Ally, which is an automotive loan company, and they plan to hire 150 more employees. So a story of homegrown success in a sector that we want to see thrive, the fintech sector. Advantage Building Supply is a door manufacturing business from New Jersey that has invested roughly $8 million into the former electric hose and rubber site in Riverside, and plans to hire 118 people. And they are actively hiring, so if you know any people that are interested in working in this area, please feel free to reach out. B&M Meats is a frozen food manufacturing business which supplies, for example, Philly cheesesteaks to Subway. And they're expanding to a prepared foods division on 21 Commerce Street, and they're estimating at least 100 jobs on that site. Next, on the 7th Street Peninsula, there's a Light Action Pine Box, which is planning to hire at least 85 employees over the next 3 years for its production and rehearsal facility that recently opened and has started running events out of that facility. And lastly, I'll mention Nerd It Now, which has moved to 3030 Bower Street and relocated its recycling business, which is the core of Nerd It Now's business, away from the county and relocated to the Riverside community, where they plan to hire 75 people and train at least 300 more in their apprentice program. And so all these businesses are actively hiring. And a trend that's particularly promising is the density of fintech firms that are located in Wilmington. ICM, Fair Square, the Delaware Prosperity Partnership released a study in 2019 on the growth of fintech and the possibility of Delaware to take the lead in this space, utilizing the roughly 170,000 workforce in the Delaware County region. So,
I have a question.
sure.
Hold on, council member.
Okay.
Let him finish.
Yeah, and what we've heard from fintech companies is that they're relocating to Wilmington for its workforce, and so that's an important point I want to keep in mind. And I also want to bring attention to the red location points on this map. I just wanted to highlight the sector of hospitality, which has had a lot of developments over the last year. Staybridge Suites has opened up a hotel in Midtown Brandywine. Restaurants Bardea Steakhouse and the Coin Hotel and Restaurant have opened up recently. Bardea Steakhouse is getting national recognition, and the Chancery Market is set to open sometime by the end of this year, and they have successfully opened 15 food halls across the nation, and we're very excited to have this talent and management in Wilmington. And they have 10 vendor stalls, and they're actively recruiting for actually local businesses and restaurants that can take a part in this business. And so these are very important sectors, and I think it's important to emphasize the need for a trained workforce. There's a huge opportunity for workforce development in hospitality, I think, with these new businesses that are opening up. And next, we will go to, so these are just the large projects that I mentioned that make up that number. I just wanted to explain that through narrative. But next, we can go.
Okay, so before you go, move forward, I know Councilmember Spadola, he's been trying to say something for a minute, and then we'll go to Councilmember Oliver.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned the workforce, but if you could do a quick case study of investor cash management, because that seems to be the biggest fish. They were in Chicago, now they're here. What else were their reasons for coming here?
Well, I think there was a local connection, and I apologize that I don't remember the name, but there was someone on Investor Cash Management's board with deep ties to Wilmington that kind of made the pitch of Wilmington for its location advantages and working collaboratively with government and whatnot. So that was kind of the sell that was made to this company.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was, like, B&M meets Light Action Pine, Nerded now in the 3rd District. Some of the businesses, new businesses, and if you could send me the addresses so I can stop by, because I just see maybe 12th Street or whatever, because sometimes people will say, well, you haven't stopped by my business. I'm like, well, I didn't even know it was a business over there. So I think it's only fair sometime, I'm not saying for everybody, but for me in the 3rd District, if you could send me an email, because I don't want a person to be there for 2 years and I'm just getting by to see them. That's not fair to individuals, especially moving from out of town, not really feeling welcome. So if you could send me the addresses for these individuals and maybe a contact person, it'd be well appreciated. Thank you.
Will do. I'm happy to send that email.
I think that's a great idea. I would like that same information for the 4th District. I'll say within the last 2 years, unless they have a ribbon cutting, sometimes I don't even know they're there.
Exactly.
For an example, well, I won't get into that. If you could just send me a list of the new businesses in the 4th District as well, that would be great.
Happy to do that.
One of the things that
Madam Chair, I had a question.
Oh, Okay,
Nothing. Go ahead.
Councilmember McCoy?
Yes, thank you. So this is to, I'm sorry, I didn't catch his full name. This is to our new Economic Development Director. It was basically with all of the new businesses that we are seeing on this map, glad to see this happening compared to compared to the amount that we lost due to like relocation or remote working, like how much, I guess how many, when it comes to new jobs, will we maybe have recovered? Maybe like dealing with like wage taxes, just trying to see whether or not are we getting closer to where we were before COVID.
Yeah, I think now all cities are dealing with this issue of the nature of work changing, and especially in professional services. I mean, like fintech, a lot of them do offer these work from home arrangements, but I think we track the wage tax that's that the city receives as this baseline. Here's where here's the impact of those jobs to the city, and so that's kind of the number that that we focus on, and yeah, there's no easy solutions to this changing workforce issue, but I do want to focus on certain sectors to promote fintech, hospitality, and yeah, that's something that we're constantly learning, and yeah, I'll keep you all updated on new initiatives that we can go forward with for this problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if you wouldn't mind if I just followed up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Director, I did not mean to have you like give me a direct number like right away, but I would just wanted to get more information and to see whether or not the majority of these jobs that we're seeing, whether or not their employers are actually encouraging them to work on site. That was basically more so the question I needed to ask.
I see. Yeah, well, it depends on the industry. For example, B&N Meats is all hands-on. It's a manufacturing business, so there's no remote work for this business. But yeah, I think sectors deal with this issue differently, and we're still learning on how that plays out.
Okay. Councilmember
Thank you.
Oliver, and then Chairman Johnson.
My question is for James. James, I know you work with the minority businesses. Can you tell me how many minority businesses? I mean, I'm looking at the map that you have assisted. I don't mean, because I've had quite a few said you stopped by and spoke to them, but I mean, could you give me a flat number of the minority that you've stopped by? I think I could see that. And the ones that you have assisted, I mean financially.
Absolutely. Good evening, Council President, Committee Chair, Committee Vice Chair, and Council members. So if we forward to the next slide, we have some information that we put together to focus a little bit more on the small business side of our office. All right, so Council Member Oliver, to
That's my
I guess
first
answer
question.
your question, 31 businesses out of 40 total in the past year that I've interacted with, we've either worked with to refer to some of our ecosystem partners for technical assistance, things such as helping with writing business plans, referrals for some of the different capital loan products from some of our ecosystem partners, such as True Access Capital or Wedco, or many other partners that we have in our ecosystem. I don't have a specific breakout of each of those different products and services, but I can work on that and get you something. I can put that information together for you.
Okay, I just want to say something. That's why in the future, Chris or whoever's chairing it, I think when you come, that's what I would like to see, like, you know, like we say minority owned or minority assisted. I think we should have a breakdown of that, not just some You know, I think this is great, but for me personally, it doesn't give me like the last bullet. I mean, we're just here for an update, and we're just getting kind of like a brief, but I think this is the committee, so this is the time to have everything broke down. This is the time we have an hour or two for you to show me everything. This, you know, to me, this is the purpose of it. So I've had several minority-owned businesses said that you have stopped by, you know, and you'll have referred them to maybe SS or True Capital or whoever, but when they put in their application, they hadn't heard anything. So I'm like, well, call economic development again, because that's what they're for. And, you know, so that's why it's good for me just to see, I want to see a breakdown of blue and green or yellow to say, we have assisted them financially, you know what I mean? So if you can get me that, I would appreciate it, because that's what I would like to see here, a breakdown, because this is just so generic. It's like, me personally, you've assisted, this is 40 to minority owned. I know that, I could Google that, but where is the breakdown to show me financially with assistance? You give me down the bottom, a highlight, the juice joint, that's a highlight, that means that they're on the, what are they, that's a highlight, meaning what?
So let me add, for illustration purposes, I listed the juice joint and Books and Bagels as examples of how we work with a business sort of comprehensively. So in the example of the juice joint, our office provided initially architecture and engineering support to help them through a grant to help them as they were opening back in 2020. Since I joined the office, I worked very closely with the owner there to provide some ARPA support to stabilize the business. They were having some challenges due to the remote work situation and offices closing down at the riverfront. But then we continued to work in some creative ways to help the business grow and to help the business remain sustainable through working with our partners at WEDCO, the Wilmington Economic Development Corporation. Our office was able to provide an additional grant to help them purchase a piece of equipment, which has really helped them to be able to be more efficient as they were struggling with labor. Having a full labor force like many small businesses across the city are. This piece of equipment really helped them to expand, and they're actually looking to open 2 additional locations here in the city because they've been able to kind of right the ship.
And see,
there.
that's what I'm saying, so you really did good for them, so, I mean, but I can't see it here, you know,
Right.
unless you
Point
explain it to me. As a follow-up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Could you give me an update, it's a guy named James on Governor Prince, a minority guy for a laundromat over there. Has he been able to get any assistance? Because I did see 4 or 5 emails.
They are still on the list. The gentleman that you referred to, Mr. Jones, has moved into a different role within the company, and he set me up with the new managers for that location, and we had agreed that we would help them to put up a new sign on the post that's in front of the store. So they're still on the list. We do
Are
need
they
to
on here? I
catch
don't
up.
see
though.
them on there, that's why I'm saying it needs to be more of a breakdown.
So far they haven't received anything, which is why
Right,
they're
and
not
it's
on
been,
the list.
I
right?
know, I'm gonna let
Yeah.
you go, but I know that's been the ongoing thing for like
It
almost
has.
2 years, and it's been close to 2 years now.
Okay.
Because I just looked at the emails today, and I know him and the other gentleman, they have spent a whole lot of money in that building. So I'm just looking at this, I'm finding in certain areas, you know, they are getting financial assistance, in certain areas they're not. These guys have spent almost over $1 million in that laundromat out of their own cash flow, and no one over there has even given them a sign, and it's been 2 years. And I find that kind of hard to understand when it's all this money out here. So that's what I mean. And one other thing, I know it's a hookah guy who owns are you familiar with a guy who has a hookah joint? Because he's been calling several council members. He hasn't been able to get any assistance. You're not familiar with
Which,
down the riverfront. It's a minority. He's been calling us. Okay.
No, that one hasn't come my way yet. A hookah
Okay.
lounge at the riverfront has not come my way.
Well, it's actually 2 at the riverfront. I believe the one council member Oliver's talking about is on the Justice side, down by Ubon, down in that little plaza by Timothy's. There's a little split between 2 buildings where you can walk through, like if you can split and go to the right to the parking lot.
Okay.
Right there, I believe that's where it's located. Is that the location?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be.
yeah, okay.
We'll follow up with the
Okay, yeah, I will
business.
follow up with.
So if you could send
Diane.
something to Marcel where I can see a better breakdown, because this is, it's just, I mean, I think it's not really telling me much besides just pointing out businesses that's doing pretty good and the number of jobs that may be coming, some of them here and some of them, which is a good thing, but it's not really telling me much. Thank you.
Okay, all right, and before I go to our next council member, would that piece of equipment for Juice Joint happen to be a cold press machine?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Okay,
is.
I'm glad to hear that because they had reached out to me before they even opened, and they wanted to know if there was anywhere they could get help to get this particular machine. So just hearing that, you guys helped them out, that sounds really good. Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you. I just want to share a quick thought. It sounds like you guys are doing great work. I do think the most valuable assistance you could give any business is, assistance connecting them to other resources, because obviously we all know the city does not have the budget we are not the long-term financial success plan for any of these businesses in the city. So, the more you can connect them to outside resources, the better for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Agreed. Council President?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. How much money is in our strategic fund for minority-owned business, geared specifically for minority-owned businesses?
Do you mean what's left over, or how much was?
How much was both, please?
So there was an infusion in 2021 and 2022. No, sorry, 2020 and 2021. Each infusion had 225,000 set aside for minority-owned businesses. Of that amount, we have roughly 60,000 left.
Okay, just a follow-up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
What's the average amount of funding that we give businesses, and what's the average turnaround time when we're able to help them financially?
The turnaround time is, I would say within a month. But to be fair, what I prepared for this presentation was just new jobs and businesses versus our strategic fund, which is a tool that we use to help these businesses. So I can prepare these numbers and
Okay.
send them to you as a follow-up. But yeah, that's my rough estimate for your question. Yeah.
And if I may add, we've been fortunate in the past year since I've been here that we've had ARPA funds available for small businesses as well. The example that I gave with the Juice Joint, we were able to leverage ARPA funds. So we're able to reserve some of our strategic funds and set aside in that way. I think I've done 5 or 6 small grants for businesses that were struggling due to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. And just another last follow-up. When will there be another infusion? And how much will that be?
Well, it depends when we make our next request.
When will that be?
I don't think it's scheduled yet, but I will reach out to the chief of staff and talk to you all and determine when that will be.
Okay.
But we don't have one scheduled yet.
Okay, because right now you say there's only 60,000 left.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. If you can let us know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Excuse me, Council President, is usually incorporated as a part of our budget request for the department. That's how the fund is replenished.
Okay, thank you. So most likely not until next
March,
July?
July 1.
Okay, thank
Oh, July. Chairman Johnson?
Yes, thank you very much. I just, again, appreciate the work of you, Mr. Williams, and you, Mr. Park, for stepping up. I know when we typically reach out, I know at least in my office, you're really responsive to the small business community and finding funds. And I always look for, the positives, and it looks like we're headed in the right direction. The one thing I just want to kind of look at what we may not be seeing, and I wanted to know where you guys are at, but I don't really see too much arts and culture in here. I see Light Action, Pine Box, but, Wilmington has a very vibrant scene and is looking to rebuild jobs. what are we doing in the arts and culture sector, or is that something your office really has not pivoted to yet?
Well, we help businesses of all kinds, and again, we just wanted to highlight new businesses and new jobs. I think the Pine Box Light Action is the biggest business in terms of job numbers that we can come up with for this presentation that relates to the arts, and they're going to bring a huge presence to Wilmington in this sector. It's going to be a regional hub for local acts, Broadway shows, music shows to practice, set up their sound stages, and have events at that space too. So I don't want to discount Pine Box Light Action, but we stay in regular contact with members of the community, with members of, the director of the Queen and the Grand, and just to be aware of what they're struggling with and how we can assist. So I would say in general that's our approach. But if there's any businesses that come to mind, we are more than happy to reach out to them and try to find a way to work together.
And Paul,
Sure.
in regards to that, again, culture, is there any thought of your office in looking at alternative laws, such as, loosening food truck restrictions, later serving hours, continuing to look into how do we attract, young folks, older folks who want to come back to cities? How do we attract them to invest in the city? Is that something that's been looked at by your office?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is like a policy type of change. But
Yes.
Our office tends to focus on project by project. Like the Chancery Market, for example, might be a great place for the arts because they invested roughly $6 million into their space. That's going to be a beautiful outdoor space as well, and a space for the community that can create a platform for local artists and for the entertainment sector. So that's been our approach. But again, we are more than happy to jump into policy discussions and make our recommendations after doing our research. But I don't want to take the lead on a broad policy change without getting the right parties involved first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's fair. I just wanted to bring it up because there's certain things I see we're moving towards,
Yeah.
but sometimes we have restrictions that just slow the process down and or make the city not as attractive. So I'm just wanting to know if your office is open. I know you're kind of new in your position, but maybe it's the office can go in a different direction, letting us know in council what suggestions are. So again, we can make try to take advantage of our strengths and move forward.
Agreed. And we're more than open to being involved in these discussions.
Okay.
Thank you. Council President?
Yes, thank you. Can you define minority-owned?
The definition that we use is aligned with the Small Business Administration's definition of minority-owned, which would be African American, Hispanic, Asian American owned, and a few others that I am not going to remember off the top of my head. But for minority-owned small businesses, we align with that of the Small Business Administration.
Okay. Does it include women?
Yes, women and small owned.
Okay. All right. Not right now, but I know you might need some time. But are you able to send us a breakdown of different businesses that we have helped financially under minority-owned, under the different backgrounds you just gave us?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Councilmember Spadola?
Thank you. Just a comment. Hearing Councilmember Johnson's question, it made me think maybe there's room for, he was talking about the arts. When I think of the organization responsible for promoting the arts in Wilmington, this government entity, I think of Cultural Affairs Office.
Right.
So maybe there's an opportunity for some very tight collaboration, between your two offices, specifically to recruit the next Light Action Pine Box.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing, Councilmember Spadola, in terms of when Chairman Johnson mentioned the arts, et cetera. I'm sure they have some type of budget. I know they even have a nonprofit City Fest, I believe, to help fund different art projects. And then I would think that you rely on organizations to reach out to you as well around the arts. But as it relates to attracting and drawing people to our area as a destination place, one of the topics that come up a lot in my conversation is the Amtrak, that it doesn't run late. And a number of people would love to come here to do restaurants and do all the different things that we have to offer, but we don't have the trains to come after a certain hour. So I'm not sure how that connects into your department and or when you're having conversations around this topic, you know, Wilmington being a destination place as it relates to economics, as it relates to hospitality, as it relates to the arts. You know, that's one of the things that I wanted to mention.
Great. Yeah, and I think this is an issue that Jeff Flynn has taken up previously. So I know there were conversations where Jeff was advocating for more train services to Wilmington Station. So I'll try to pick up where those conversations left off, and ultimately that's what I want to see as well, more service to Wilmington, and it's actually a very busy station comparatively to the region. So thank you for that suggestion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the council members in the room? Any questions from the council members on the line? Any questions from the public on the line? Well, my last statement I want to make before we move on, how is the disparity study connected with your office, and is it connected to your office?
Yes.
I can speak to that. It is. Our office has worked very closely with Miller 3. My role has helped to manage the project along. We have made a lot of progress. It's coming near its conclusion, so we'll have more information on that in the very near future.
Awesome. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilmember.
I'm sorry, one more question.
Sure.
Very quickly, either hard data or anecdotally, any uptick in local business from the BMW golf event that you know of?
Yeah. Well, the organization that has the data is the Greater Wilmington Conventions Bureau, and I'm actually having an interview set up with her to get this data. But anecdotally, I think there's a few businesses that did very well, but I wanted to see more activity downtown and in the riverfront. But I think we're kind of new to these events coming to the city, and I think we need to learn how to run these type of events and promotions more efficiently. My office did work with the It's Time campaign to design the It's Time for Fun campaign. So they have some data around their increased hits to their website based on this campaign. But yeah, I want to see more of these opportunities, and I think certainly a few businesses did very well. Yeah.
Okay. That's it. All right. If no other questions in the room, no other questions on the line, we want to thank you for the update on this evening, and we are going to look forward to you coming back to share additional information around the disparity study and some of the other questions that were asked. And we know that you primarily prepared to come to talk about the new job, so we'll look forward to reaching out to your office.
Great. We
So
look forward to
thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go to our last item on the agenda, which is a resolution establishing a special committee of the city council around fees and fines for a special committee. And the sponsor for the resolution is Councilmember Darby. Councilmember Darby, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Council Chair. So this task force has been in the works for over a year, talking to several people throughout the department, council people, community people. So I'm excited to be here. And we'll have a vote tonight. It doesn't need to be voted on, but we'll have a vote on it hopefully at the next council meeting on Thursday. But this really came from listening to constituents who have been impacted by fees and fines in our city, where certain people are being heavily fined and feed, and there's predatory penalties that happen when you can't pay your fees and fines. So this task force is made up of council and community people. And it's the main purpose of it is to have authority to collect information needed to make recommendations and to come up with solutions around fees and fines in our city so that we can have that reform. So some of the focuses definitely will be like around parking, which is a big thing for our city, water billing, just different things that constituents are impacted by. And it's not just focused on like the cost of the fee and fine, like not just, a parking ticket of $40, is that equitable? It's also looking at the process. Is it fair and equitable from how you're booted, how much you can be booted for, and then the process to get towed and that whole system, and then your car being taken and still owing the fee and fine, right? Is that an equitable process? Does it make sense? And does it really make people pay their fees and fines? Or does it harm our community, right? So having those conversations, and I really wanted this to be a collaborative effort in the discussion around fees and fines. However, last finance committee meeting, I had to pull my legislation because I got a request that the administration did not want to be a part of this collaborative effort. On the task force originally, there's supposed to be the Department of Finance, a representative from the mayor's office, a very collaborative effort to talk about these things. But they decided they didn't want to be a part. And we also have not joined the cities and counties fees and fines justice program, which I'm going to talk about, that the city was just accepted to. But the offer is always on the table because I want it to be a collaborative effort where we're all working together on this issue. And I want to say City Council has been very supportive of the idea of fees and fines reform. Before I was on council, I think Councilwoman Michelle Harley and Kabir, they had a fees and fines task force that was going to start, but for some reason it didn't start. So I know this already has been something that has been near and dear to a lot of hearts to my fellow council colleagues. But the city of Wilmington was accepted to, on top of getting this task force passed, the city of Wilmington has been accepted to Cities and Counties Fees and Fines Justice Program. And in that program, 6 other council people in the application wrote letters of support. And we were one of 6 cities/counties selected across the country. We had a very strong application. The program will provide us with researchers, technical assistance, and networking with other cities of similar sizes and bigger and even smaller sizes than Wilmington, right? So it provides us with some framework for us to start with around some reform that's happening across the country of cities that are just like us and cities that may be a little different where we can learn from. So I want to first say thank you to our community advocates who were working on the application, were accepted. So basically the city has a third-party consultant at no cost to us, right? And they're actually giving us $50,000 to a $50,000 grant to do reform around fees and fines. So I'm excited to see this task force and the program that the city of Wilmington is accepted in. I'm excited to see them working together so that we can come up with solutions in a collaborative effort, having a third party, having hopefully people from the administration participating, city council, the community, for us to all come around the table with some background of some researchers and the technical assistance we'll get from the program, and that we can make an impact around fees and fines reform. And I know a lot of my other council colleagues are for fee and fines reform and are already drafting some of these legislations, but we really, I think, we need to improve it, right? There's always room for improvement, room for growth, and room for us to do better, right? So that's the intent of this legislation, resolution. So that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Darby. And as you mentioned, the whole topic of fees and fines, especially around towing and around parking, have been an ongoing conversation. I know from the time I got on council during the 107 session, and yes, you made the point that we got started. We actually had a couple of meetings. We just had informal meetings. We did not establish a task force per se, but we did get started. Ken Grant, who works for AAA, he was at that meeting, and a number of the individuals from the administration, as well as a couple of council members. So I'm excited to have the opportunity for us to move forward with doing a deep dive into some of these fines, especially as it relates to towing. That's one of my main concerns as it relates to the whole topic. We have some, in my opinion, some egregious fines and practices around towing, and especially in some of our communities where individuals, our constituency can barely provide food and bare essentials, and yet we have towing trucks riding through the community, just arbitrarily, just towing cars, and then piling on these storage fees, and then eventually individuals just end up losing their vehicles. So there's definitely a need for us to do a deeper dive into some of these practices, because clearly there is an issue, a problem with predatory towing. And again, like I said, that is one of the things that I'm focusing on. And so I just wanted to share that publicly. Does any other council members have any questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Oliver.
Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman Darby, I was glad to be able to have set in with the fines and fees. I did learn some things regarding the contract that y'all are working on, which is really consisting of parking tickets and water. I think we did ask if we can get a copy of that contract. I don't know if Marshall has it. She can share it with us. Marshall, do you have a copy of their contract? Is there any way, Councilwoman Darby, that we can get a copy of your contract that y'all was awarded?
The grant?
The grant,
Okay.
yeah. Is Councilwoman Darby on?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, I can give you a copy of the application and the grants information.
Okay, if you just send it over to Marshall. I mean, we had a good conversation with the group, and my issue also was the towing, and for the public works, just to let everyone know, we will have some, if anyone has some issue with towing, we will like you to attend the Public Works Committee. We will be sending it out. Because as Councilman Hardy said, we have some individuals who have lost their vehicles to these to various towing companies. I think it's the one that the city is working with, where they have just failed some of the citizens in the city of Wilmington. And it also goes back to what I requested a while ago regarding the booting practices because of COVID. I thought I know they had stopped ticketing, but that's a whole, not going to repeat myself. But that is my issue with the towing and the booting, and it's been an ongoing conversation for over a year. And you just go in certain neighborhoods, and I mean, even downtown, you go through there, you see a boot, 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 ticket, and people are unable to get through the line to try to fight or try to talk to someone regarding their tickets and appeal. It's the appeal process that the line is not available, and we heard that the other day, and some of the stats are just staggering. So there is an issue with the appeal process, and I have at least 6 or 7 people who have, called me and sent over the information, and now they have shared, said that 1 or 2 of their friends. So I'm inviting them to come to the Public Works to discuss it and just share. I mean, it's not really a discussion because we're not here to go back and forth at these committee meetings, but you are free to come up here and at least speak and express how you feel at the committee meetings, because that's what they're for. So I think I have about 15 or 20 people that will be coming to talk about the foul practices with booting and towing. Thank you. And that's all around fines and fees because it adds up.
Okay, Chairman Johnson?
And I appreciate everyone's work on this project. I guess my question is for the prime sponsor, Councilmember Darby, is will the task force be looking at also improving enforcement? Because I know, for example, I have corridors in my district that people say there's not enough enforcement.
Right.
Because there's people parking where they shouldn't be parking in front of a business or leaving their car there. So is that something that the task force is going to be looking at as well?
Yes, and I think Councilmember McCoy had brought that up at the site visit when they came to visit the city on Friday. And that's definitely something that is on our list of goals or recommendations or things that we want to look at is enforcement. I know there was a street that Councilmember McCoy was saying that people park on even with the notice that they can't park during certain times and it's not being enforced. So that's important too.
Okay.
And we also talked about some communities having 2-hour parking and some not needing it and some needing more. So.
Okay, great, because that was an area I know is definitely a concern of mine as well as McCoy. You know, that the area, some people need more enforcement.
Yes.
And they're not enforcing where they should necessarily be. So thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilmember McCoy?
Thank you. So yeah, I actually just wanted to bring up, thank you for mentioning me, Councilman Darby. My whole issue was more so about compliance. With my neighborhood where I do not have as many businesses as I guess will be downtown, where you're seeing a lot of 2-hour or 15-minute parking or what have you, where people are getting ticketed regularly with meters and things of that nature. Only on my corridors I have businesses, but inside of these neighborhoods, we have a real issue with compliance. So that was one of the questions that I did bring up to the group. I said, because of course I would love to be able to, lower fees and figure things out. I said, but it's the behavior. It is just trying to adjust behaviors. I'm trying to figure out, and I was asking them, I hope they find a remedy, resolution, like a resolve to what these things are. So I do look forward to you having another conversation to see what they would recommend in order to, to adjust behaviors when it comes to compliance within my district, well, within the city rather.
Okay. Councilmember Oliver?
Yeah, lastly, no, I just think it's important, as Councilman Darby said, that she will send over the contract, because it's a lot of things we're talking about. But based on their contract, they are, their contract is for parking tickets and water. So some of this stuff I already sent a letter to Kelly Williams. A lot of the things we're talking about, as Yolanda, Councilman McCoy, and Chris is saying, this is about enforcing. This is about sitting down with someone from the parking. I had a conversation with David Karras, with someone who works with the neighborhood parking, et cetera, and get a conversation, a Zoom call, because that's not some of the things we're talking about. That's not what the group is here. So we just having some of these conversations just need to be identified to the right departments. So I just wanted to make that clear. So I mean, it's not like we can't discuss it, but talking to I guess Grant, some of the things they do is we have to reach out to various departments for some of the things we're asking for as compliances. But I just wanted to clarify that. That's why I'm inviting individuals regarding the towing, and then I plan on putting in some legislation to enforce some action one way or another. So, thank you.
Councilmember Spadola?
Thank you. I'm curious about the $50,000. Can you provide some clarity on, how that's being dispersed, who's controlling it? Yeah. That's for the sponsor.
Yeah, so currently right now, I'm sorry, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, no, I thought I heard something. But currently right now, there is a established team that works with the program, right? So that team, we submitted a proposal to the national group on how we're going to use the $50,000. So I'll give you three things that we want to do. One, we want to create a fee and fines fund so that people can apply to it to get assistance with paying their fees and fines. So that's one thing we want to do. Another thing we want to do with the funds, and the program approved it, is hire like maybe 2 community organizers and a researcher. So the 2 community organizers would do on-the-ground community work, having meetings, engaging more people who have been impacted by fees and fines. And then another piece of it is creating a program for people who have been impacted by fees and fines and doing an education workshop so that they're able to advocate for themselves and know how to work this system. Because understanding how to do an appeal is not clear. The appeal process is not clear. So a lot of education needs to happen to the community. So those are just a few things. And I can make sure that the approved budget from the program can be sent to you guys along with the application. But then another thing, the task force in the program currently right now, they're not one and the same. They're going to work together, but they are not the same. The task force for the resolution, we can talk about any fee or fine. It does not have to be water or parking related. When we did the application, we had to come up with 2 things and come up with some ideas. And those were the 2 things we thought was the most important for the city of Wilmington. However, with the task force, we can expand that conversation around. We want to start talking about red light camera tickets. We can talk about that. Like, it doesn't have to be strictly parking and water when we're talking about that. But I can share the budget with you guys that's been approved by the program and the application contract.
Thank you.
Councilmember Darby, it sounds like there has been a group of people already meeting prior to the task force that came up with these top 2 or 3 main reasons or purposes to apply for the grant?
Correct, yes. So the application process, it was like in March when they released the application. It was due by May. So during that time, I reached out to council people, let them know I was applying, and I believe I got 6 letters from council people. And then I reached out to some community people, some UD researchers who do a lot of work around fees and fines. And we collected data and I requested data from different departments in the city to assist us with the application process.
Okay, thank you. So is there going to be 2 teams here? Is it going to be another committee outside of the task force working together?
No, so yes, there will be 2 teams. So this team, the task force team, will have more authority in regards to data collection than just a team or a program would. So we are going to work in conjunction with the task force. And I want the task force to exist beyond this program. So this program is only going to be with us until March. I don't know when March, April, May. They'll be with us. And then they're going to leave, right? So that task force will stay here with us as a permanent thing for us to keep having this conversation around fees and fines reform.
Okay, so the recommendations are going to come out of the task force, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, they're going to come out of the task force. And my last question is, have these community organizers that can get paid, have they been identified already?
No, they have not been identified yet. So we're working on creating a website, getting the email address set up to do some outreach and see if people are interested. So if you are interested, you can reach out to City Council and someone can get you in contact with me if you want to do some organizing around fees and fines reform. And we're really looking for someone too who's bilingual in English and Spanish, because we know that's a whole untapped population. We're not hearing their stories in regards to how they're being impacted by fees and fines. So if you're interested, you can reach out.
Okay, thank you. So do we have any other questions from the council members in the room? Council President.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to thank Councilwoman Darby for bringing this back to the forefront. It's really important that we are working as hard as we can on behalf of our constituents. I understand there may be a financial impact, but I think that if we're able to do things better and fairer, we should at least look into it. I would also like to be a co-sponsor, add as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any council members on the line that have any questions? Anyone from the public? Okay, seeing none. We want to thank everyone for participating on tonight in this finance meeting. I believe that we had some great discussions around all of the topics on our agenda. So having said that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting for this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you. Okay, all right. Councilmember Johnson.